We now have our customized album post endpoint up and working, and in the process we also had to amend the get endpoint for a collection of albums. This was to set the root to be album singular, and the reason that we had to do that is that you have to have both get individual and get a collection of any particular resource when working with the API platform. As we'd explicitly defined the post collection operation, we must also have had to implement the get collection operation, as this was mandatory. If any of this is uncertain to you, please watch the previous videos where we have covered this in more depth. Now, thanks to the defaults that the API platform provides, we can both post and get album data in either JSON, JSON-LD, JSON-HAL, and XML. This is really nice. However, there are some inconsistencies to address. So if we look at the router, we can see that the collection operations are using album, singular, whereas our item operations are still using albums, plural. Knowing what we know now, if we're going to update one of the item operations, then we must update all of them. Anything that we omit will be effectively disabled. Before proceeding, however, let's make sure that we do have a failing test. This is fine, we expect a failure, and we get one, and specifically, we get a 404. This is also expected as our test wants to hit /album/1, and right now we only offer /albums/whatever. So let's fix this by defining an item operation for getting an individual album resource. This is as easy as defining an item operations key, under which we define get, which is a method of get. We define the path in the format that we expect. I think after you've done one of these, the rest of them kind of just fall into place. We can check the output of a debug router, and as already mentioned, if we manually define one operation, then we must manually define all operations for the given key. In other words, we've just lost all the automatically created delete and put routes because we didn't explicitly define them. We will come back to put and delete again shortly. But for now, let's retest, and we can see that we have a pass. This required very little effort on our part. Now, what's interesting here is that whilst it looks like we're returning the same JSON as in our previous Symfony 4 and the Symfony 4 with FOSS REST bundle implementations, here we're actually returning JSON-LD. Note the inclusion of the keys with the @ prefix, aka JSON-LD keywords. There's a link to this in the show notes. This is some extra data that our BHAT test doesn't care about, and BHAT is somewhat unusual in this, in that it lets extra stuff happen, just so long as the behaviour that we do care about is occurring. Now, even though we didn't have to do very much here, we are effectively done. And if we didn't need to make our root or endpoint singular, then this process would have been even easier. I think this is really nice. Okay, so let's move on to getting a collection.